Manchester United are exploring a potential move for Newcastle's left-back Lewis Hall. Now, work has begun to understand how much a deal for the player would cost as Manchester United assess the options available on the market at left-back. Newcastle don't want to sell Hall, who still has 3 years left on his contract. Well, as United look to potentially add Lewis Hall, the players they've signed already seem to be settling in. Andre Santos arrived for £50 million from Chelsea this month and showed his quality with that finish. Pressure on the FIFA president Gianni Infantino as the fallout continues from his proposal to sell off a stake in the World Cup. Now, one of Infantino's senior advisors, Carlos Cordero, has resigned in protest, while FIFA's chief operating officer, Kevin Lamour, claims that Infantino has deceived the governing body's staff. Well, Cordero, who you can see in the glasses on the right there, is a heavyweight figure within FIFA and has worked alongside Infantino since 2021. He was formerly the president of US Soccer and a vice chairman of Goldman Sachs. And in a statement, Cordero said this: "I cannot stand by while FIFA considers selling a stake in the World Cup. I had no involvement in this proposal and I oppose it unequivocally. It is a bad deal for FIFA's member associations, a bad deal for football and a bad deal for the long-term future of the game. This proposal should be rejected. Decisions of this magnitude should be made in the interests of football, not those who stand to profit from it." Well, while his senior advisor resigned, Infantino has been in Morocco today celebrating their Throne Day. Morocco will be one of 6 host nations of the next World Cup in 2030, alongside Spain, Portugal, Uruguay, Paraguay and Argentina. Well, in a further blow to Infantino, FIFA's chief operating officer, Kevin Lamour, has said, to put it very clearly and directly, the project has sparked so much controversy and debate is not a FIFA project. It is even less a project of FIFA's administration. It is the project of one person. The FIFA vice presidents, the members of the FIFA Council, the confederations, the federations, the players, the leagues, the clubs and the fans were not the only ones who were ignored. FIFA's own administration was also deceived. A president must bring people together, unite them and inspire them. Today, we are experiencing the opposite.
I think things are now looking very, very bleak for Gianni Infantino. And I think that's an extraordinary thing to say, because just a few days ago, he seemed to be at the height of his powers. He started this week by taking to social media and writing an 8-page diatribe, calling his critics haters and celebrating what a great job he was doing. Fast forward a couple of days and he's fighting to keep his job. I think the question this evening is he going to be taken out by somebody inside FIFA or somebody outside FIFA? I think this statement that's been given to Graham Dunbar of the Associated Press by Kevin Lamour is an incredible statement. Kevin Lamour is the chief operating officer of FIFA. He's not resigning. In this statement, he is saying, if this statement means I'll lose my job, so be it. At least I'll be able to sleep easily at night. He cannot take it anymore. He says he's been at FIFA for 2 years. He moved from UEFA. He's a very, very senior, respected football executive. He said, I cannot believe some of the things I've seen over the past 2 years. He says that people at FIFA have been deceived. The staff deserve better than to be treated with contempt and intimidation. And he makes it clear this plan to sell off a stake in the World Cup is not a FIFA plan. It is the plan of one person, Gianni Infantino. And I think Gianni Infantino has to be held accountable for this, and it's time for him to step aside and let somebody else lead world football.
Well, this criticism of Infantino from within FIFA has come after UEFA and its 55 national associations confirmed they'd boycott all FIFA tournaments until Infantino's proposal is scrapped. Now, this follows the UEFA president, Alexander Ceferin, boycotting the World Cup final in protest against FIFA.
It was a unilateral intervention. something that was ill thought out and had potentially catastrophic consequences. So anyone who knows the game and who understands our role as custodians of the game would feel uncomfortable and nervous and frightened by what might lie ahead should we agree to sell off part of the World Cup competitions to private equity. I would be very, very surprised and shocked if FIFA doesn't act quickly to try and mitigate what lies ahead. Because the truth of the matter is, a Women's World Cup next year in Brazil without the big European nations there is not a World Cup at all. I would hope that the president of FIFA listens very, very closely to the response, not just from UEFA, because it's easy to say this is just a European reaction. And clearly Europe has quite some strength within the world football community. But for the Asian Confederation and CONCACAF, and who knows what the other confederations will say in the next 24, 48 hours.
Well, speaking of the Asian Confederation, the Asian Football Federation has followed UEFA and CONCACAF in rejecting Infantino's plan. It said the AFC has observed with deep concern the developments of recent days and the uncertainty that has emerged across the global football community. The AFC stands in solidarity with UEFA and CONCACAF in expressing serious concerns over FIFA's proposal. The fact that the real possibility of a World Cup boycott has entered public discourse should concern everyone who cares about the future of our game. The AFC believes that the proposed FFE cannot realistically achieve the necessary broad consensus and unity required to move forward. Any proposal that risks undermining the unity and universal character of the competition must be reconsidered. Eddie Howe says it's the right time to leave Newcastle after the club confirmed he's resigned as head coach. Well, Newcastle are on the verge of announcing Matthias Jesler as Howe's successor. We think they'll do that tomorrow. Well, the confirmation comes well over 24 hours after the news broke that Howe had left the club. He'd been in charge for nearly 5 years and led Newcastle to their first major trophy in 70 years when they won the League Cup last year. Now, he released this statement. After nearly 5 years of giving my life, heart and soul into the club with unrelenting energy, I feel that it's in the best interests of both myself and the club to step away, recharge and take a break. Although it's been incredibly difficult to make this decision, I know in my heart that it's the right one. I've always put the best interests of Newcastle before my own in every single decision I've made whilst I've been here, and this one is no different. It's been the privilege of my lifetime to have been the manager of Newcastle United. Finally, and most importantly, thank you to our incredible supporters. Your passion and loyalty have inspired me every single day. To stand on the touchline at St James's Park as your manager with the honour of representing your club has meant more to me than you will ever know. While my journey as manager has now come to an end, the affinity and love I will always hold for Newcastle United never will.
Lovely, wholesome and emotional words from Eddie Howe in the Newcastle United statement that dropped at 4:30 this afternoon, announcing his departure at the club after nearly 5 years in charge. Newcastle waited all of yesterday and most of today to drop that announcement due to the fact they wanted to ensure that they had Eddie Howe's successor lined up and in place. Documentation has been going back and forward between lawyers all day, but they're now in a position where they feel they have his replacement, Matthias Jesler, in place. And the German is set to travel to Spain tomorrow to meet his new squad and join up with the Newcastle travelling party who flew out from the northeast to La Manga earlier on today. I can reveal that Newcastle have agreed to pay £9.5 million in compensation to the Saudi Pro League club Al Ahly for Jesler. And look, that shows exactly how much Newcastle wanted their man. It's not been easy for them. The Saudi club tried to dig their heels in, but Newcastle made it clear he is their #1 target. And even going back to the end of the season when Eddie Howe first intimated that he might not have the energy to continue, I'm assured from sources within the club that the German would have been high up on Newcastle United's wish list. So the Newcastle squad will get to meet the new manager tomorrow once that deal is ratified, and he'll have a full week to work with the players on the training pitch out in La Manga before that first match in charge next weekend in a pre-season friendly against Valencia.
So Howe's departure has finally been confirmed. Jamie Redknapp believes the signs were there last summer.
It must have been so hard for him because you knew full well how much love he had for the Newcastle fans, for the Geordies. The success he's had has been absolutely incredible. And for him to leave a club like Newcastle and have so many great fond memories, what he's achieved there, how he's improved players, it must have been incredibly difficult. But I just felt last year the writing was on the wall. I think there was a couple of things that went against him. You know, Alexander Isak this time last year, that must have been a really tough window for him. And then it feels like there's been bad news story after bad news story at Newcastle. Players wanting to leave, obviously Tonali now and Guimaraes. It seems to be a very difficult club to manage right now. And they need some good news. And good news, is that the manager coming in? It doesn't really feel... Hopefully he comes in and does well. He's not managing the Premier League, obviously. He's from the Red Bull model, which is obviously a huge success. But it's a lot of pressure coming to a club like Newcastle, especially when there's not that feel-good factor. Every time you play at Newcastle, with what Eddie Howe did is he changed the whole perception of the club. It got a feeling good. You know, I used to go up there and do games and it just felt... the whole club was on the floor, and he obviously has come in, and obviously the new owners made a difference as well, but Eddie lifted so many people's spirits and he gave so much joy to the people of Newcastle. But I understand this now. He's been there 5 years, is it? He'd be tired. I think he probably needs a little bit of a break, a bit of fresh air. He'll probably go back down to the South Coast for a while and just recharge his batteries, and then he'll look at the right time to get back in. And when that right time is, we don't know. But it won't be too long because Eddie's the sort of guy that's he's a workaholic. He wants to get back in as quickly as possible, I'm sure. But this little bit, this spell now to go on holiday, recharge his batteries, and probably look at Newcastle and think, let someone else have that problem.
Well, Bruno Guimaraes posted a farewell message to Howe on Instagram, calling his former manager the king of this club. And he thanked him for making him a better player and person. Well, Redknapp believes that with all the upheaval at St James's Park, Guimaraes holds all the cards when it comes to his future.
It's a really difficult club now to manage because of, as I say, you've got Bruno Guimaraes. Now, he is probably in the best position of his life right now because I'm thinking when my footballer's head on right now, and even as an agent's perspective, if he wants to go, he can really push that deal to Arsenal, and I'm sure there's not a lot the club can do because he's just say, listen, what's going on, the turmoil, I can get out here. But from the other side of it, he can get a massive bumper contract to stay at Newcastle because they need some good news and they need it quickly. And it might be the same with Lewis Hall because the players almost to a certain extent have the club exactly where they want them. You know, and I think... he's in a really smart position here now, Bruno Guimaraes. Now, if he wants to stay, great for Newcastle fans. But if he wants to go, he can really push hard and use the reasons. Oh, Eddie Howe's not here anymore. He was my guy. He signed me. And he'll obviously get the move that he wants. So it's interesting times at Newcastle. You know, they need to get some players in quickly and just stop this negativity around the club. And I'm sure the owners will be trying to do that as quickly as possible.